All right, let's talk about something we've all felt. You're in your house, you see a bug, you take care of it. And then, for just a second, you're hit with this totally weird mix of feelings, right? Like part victory, part guilt. It's so strange. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. It really is, isn't it? A microscopic emotional roller coaster. I mean, one second you're this heroic hunter defending your turf, and the very next, you're having an existential crisis over a crumpled up paper towel. That feeling? It's this wild collision between our most ancient primal instincts and our most modern, evolved emotions. So why is it so complicated? Why does something so simple feel so messy? That is the big question we're tackling. It's basically a psychological tug-of-war going on inside your own head. And we're about to find out who's on each end of the rope. Okay, first up, let's tackle the part that feels, well, surprisingly good. The satisfaction. That little spark of victory you get right after the mission is accomplished. And hey, it's not because you're some kind of monster. It's actually this super deep-seated sense of relief. It's literally your brain patting you on the back and saying, good job. And what's so fascinating here is just how primal this reaction really is. That good feeling, it's coming from your brain's most ancient reward system kicking into gear. See, your brain doesn't just see a bug. No. It sees a potential threat, a source of disease. So when you get rid of it, you've essentially protected your modern-day cave. And for that, boom, you get a nice little hit of dopamine. The chase is over, your space is safe again. And this whole thing taps directly into a really fundamental part of our psychology, right? We humans just love completing tasks. We're wired for it. So this little 3-act drama, threat identified, threat neutralized, mission accomplished, it gives us this weirdly satisfying sense of closure. It's a simple primal to-do list, and you just checked off the box. But then, almost as soon as it starts, the mood totally shifts. That little high of victory fades, and it gets replaced by something completely different. This sudden, unexpected wave of, what is that, sadness? Guilt? And it almost always kicks in the exact second the movement stops. And this transition, it's really the whole key. Because one moment, you're dealing with a living thing, right? A complex little biological machine doing its thing. And the next, it's just an object. It's trash. That jarring switch from alive to not alive is what can trigger this thing we might call an empathy glitch. It's this tiny flash of existential weirdness. And this is where our more evolved, higher-order brain starts to chime in. It's that part of us that has a brief, fleeting moment where it recognizes the sanctity of life. Yep, even for a little bug we really don't like. And it's also a pretty sobering reminder of the huge power imbalance, you know? We're these giants who can just snuff out an entire existence without thinking twice. And that, well, that can feel surprisingly heavy. And on top of all that, there's the lingering ick factor. There's actually a psychological term for this, contact contamination. The idea is that even when the bug is gone, the memory of the crunch, or just the whole act of getting rid of it, it leaves you feeling like your space, and maybe even you, are now somehow less clean. It's like, yeah, you won the battle, but your peaceful home vibe took a little bit of a hit in the process. So where does that super powerful ick feeling actually come from? I mean, really, what is that? To get it, we've got to look at the science. And it all comes down to one of our most powerful evolutionary tools, the disgust reflex. And this is way more than just not liking something. Think of it as a full-on biological alarm system. And here's the core idea behind it. It's called the pathogen avoidance theory. Basically, it suggests that way back when, our ancestors who had a really strong yuck reaction to stuff that could make them sick, rotting food, filth, and certain insects like cockroaches, well, they were less likely to get sick. So they survived, they had more kids, and they passed that super sensitive disgust gene all the way down to us. That feeling, it's not just in your head, it is literally in your DNA. Okay, so this all brings us right back to that debate happening inside your head. In one corner, you've got your modern brain. The logical, empathetic part, that's your prefrontal cortex, the bit that's responsible for all your high-level thinking. This is the part of you that's thinking about big, abstract ideas like life and death and empathy. It's the one looking at the situation and trying to apply some kind of moral framework to it. You could say it's pretty much the voice of your conscience. But that calm, logical voice is in a shouting match with a much, much older and louder part of your brain. And that's your primal brain. Specifically, a little region called the insular cortex. And you can just think of this as your brain's ancient, hardwired headquarters for disgust and nausea. And believe me, this part of your brain could not care less about philosophy. Its one and only job is to keep you safe from getting sick. It's not sad at all. In fact, it's celebrating. It sees that bug as a walking, crawling germ, and getting rid of it is a massive win for survival. So that totally weird mix of feelings you have, that's literally these two parts of your brain just shouting at each other.
Okay, so now we get to the real aha moment in all of this. Have you ever wondered why a cockroach seems so much more disgusting than, say, a spider, even though the spider might actually be way more dangerous? Well, it's because our brain files them in two completely different mental folders.
And the whole distinction really boils down to this. We see things like spiders and bees as mini predators. They have weapons, right? Venom, stingers, so they trigger fear. But cockroaches? We see them as pollutants. They don't really attack us. They contaminate our space. They're all about decay and filth, so they trigger disgust. It's a threat of injury versus a threat of disease. Totally different. And this difference plays out in completely separate areas of the brain. A fear response, say from that spider, that's going to light up your amygdala, the threat detection center. And what's your reaction? Get away from me. But the disgust from a cockroach, that fires up the insular cortex, the contamination center. The reaction isn't get away, it's get that thing out of here. It's a totally fundamental difference in how we're wired. And there's one more little psychological trick happening here. Let's call it the iceberg effect. Think about it. When you see one bee, you just think, oh, okay, a bee. But when you see one cockroach, your brain immediately leaps to the horrifying conclusion that there must be hundreds, maybe thousands more that you can't see, hiding in the walls. So it's not just one intruder. It feels like a sign of a full-blown invasion, a complete violation of your safe space. So let's pull all these threads together. That really weird, complicated feeling you get, it's a super complex, lightning-fast battle between the oldest parts of your brain and the newest parts of your brain. And they're both fighting over two totally different ways of seeing the exact same event. For your primal brain, the verdict is simple. That satisfaction you feel has nothing to do with killing. It's all about cleansing. You weren't just killing a bug, you were purifying your environment. You restored order and safety to your territory. Case closed. But that little pang of sadness that comes after, well, that's your modern, empathetic brain finally getting a word in. It's the part of you that can step back and see the situation from a different angle, even the perspective of a tiny animal that was just trying to survive inside a giant's kitchen. And that feeling really is a sign of our incredibly advanced consciousness. And that's the whole tug-of-war, isn't it? This tiny, totally normal, everyday moment actually reveals the incredible complexity of the human mind. It's this constant negotiation between our ancient, hardwired drive to avoid getting sick and our modern, evolved capacity for empathy. So the next time you reach for that shoe, which part of your brain are you going to be listening to?